Hello, welcome to this Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to 40k Thursdays. It is a day filled with mystery, intrigue, and love. And I'm joined by Nick Pert. There he is. Hello, sir.
Hello, which one am I? Mystery, intrigue, or love?
I don't know.
I kind of want to know now.
We're also joined by Tom Layton below us, but his Skype box has been getting, for some reason, smaller. That's nothing to do with you, Tom, but amusingly smaller and smaller.
It's okay. It improves the aspect ratio of the Weeb Tower vehicle I've got in the background.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on there.
That happened to me when we had Dick on. It just kept getting bigger and smaller randomly.
I mean, that depends on how excited he got.
Right, well, hello everyone, welcome to the show. I see you all in the chat. How do hydration points work anyway? No one's quite sure. Wolf Priest Carl, Dude Our Day, welcome to Ladies Night, Battle Chode, Ziggy, Datcom. Thanks all for being here. Welcome to the show.
Every time you say Battle Chode, I just lose it.
Obviously, I need to say thank you to everyone on those Wargamer Patreon. You guys couldn't do it without you. Thank you to everyone on the podcast. Stay hydrated. Let's have a little drink for them. And of course, thank you for joining us live, and thanks for subscribing, Brad Glover, for 15 months. Hashtag Overwatch is back. It was gone for 3 days.
Not the game, obviously. That thing still sucks, but
yeah, that does still suck. Hello, Russ. And so, yeah, thank you to all of you guys. You guys are great. The subject of today's show is we're going to be going through all of the news from 9th edition that we know to date. That's going to be the whole show, because you can't really talk about the game until the whole game's out. So we're going to talk about the news, and we're going to be done. That's the plan.
News and wild speculation.
Perfect. And rumours. My first rumour, obviously, is that I'm not going to play any practice games before tournaments in 9th edition, because I see practice games as more of a disadvantage.
that's why I lose all my practice games, mate, to make me get better.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, but not playing at all and not having any knowledge. Not having any knowledge.
Yeah, because I see playing and learning the game as a disadvantage to tournaments. So that's my 9th edition resolution. Have you two got a 9th edition resolution?
Imagine how good I'd be if I didn't play practice games, my dude. It'd be insane. I'd be so good. Imagine how good I'd be if I didn't play practice games, my dude.
Yeah, it's so good.
If you did a proper tournament detox, you'd smash it at the next one.
Yeah, I mean, all this practice is weighing me down. Imagine what happens when I take off the bicycle training wheels.
Terrifying. Nick, how have you been?
Been pretty good, yeah.
Have you seen any lovely trees?
Edition... Sorry?
Have you seen any lovely trees since we last saw you?
I've not been back to my lovely tree yet, but I did see a nice plum tree, I think it was. In someone's garden, but it was nowhere near as magnificent as the Tree of Ages that exists in Willerton Park. Do you want to know my 9th edition goal?
Yeah, please.
My 9th edition goal is to say knob more than I did in 8th edition.
So play orcs more, because that's the point. You didn't really play orcs outside of silly games, did you, Nikos?
I did take the Orcs to a couple of tournaments. I never took them to a Games Workshop event because
they're not tournaments. They don't count.
Mine was totally combat focused, and it's just a shooting gallery at Games Workshop previously. Hopefully not anymore. But I took them to some ITC tournaments, and they were okay. They weren't great, but they were fun. But I didn't have any. I only had a few knobs. So you had one knob in your boy unit. So I'm hoping to have units full of knobs.
Yeah, one knob in your boy.
And say that a lot, basically. That's my resolution for 9th edition. Yeah, apart from that, doing all right. Got a big fan of the show with me today.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, I can hear it.
Yeah.
Who's the big
I can
fan?
hear him.
There it is.
See,
It's
I've
not
only
moving,
got.
Nikos. You're losing something there.
I've only got a little fan. I've only got a little fan on the show with me today. Have you been this week? Have you been okay?
Yeah. I had a stressful week last week, but much better this week. Yeah, all good.
All right, perfect. All right, Tom, what about you this week? How you doing? That Stomper's
Yeah,
coming
thanks,
on.
bro. Yeah, I finished painting the head, and then I decided that I didn't like it because when I sponged all the metal on, it looked like it was just kind of too much. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go back over the head because it's not exactly the most detailed model anyway, and then I'm going to dry brush the rust and the battle damage afterwards, and hopefully that'll look a lot better. And then I can start painting the Wargamer top and work out what my green skin color scheme is going to be to put in my master sheet.
Can I just say the weirdest thing about 40k at the moment is how much Hobby Tom is doing?
I haven't done any hobby in the last week, my dude. This is all the hobby you're getting.
Okay. All right. Well, the only thing I've done is assemble a Met Boy workshop and also received my Death Guard army from Trelly today, and I am excited for poo grenades, for deep striking some Mortarians. There's not a Mortarian in the box, so
you can borrow my Mortarian, bro, if you want to play with it.
One day I'm gonna get one again, and I'm gonna give him like a white armor. Like I think I'm gonna paint up like Heresy era Death Guard. So I'm gonna go for like cream white armor with either like bronze or gold or green trim at the minute. I mean green, probably bronze actually. I might make it like very.
Yeah, I've been thinking about going back over. Yeah, I've been thinking about going over my Chaos Space Marine color scheme and painting it like a white because I really like some of the contrast whites people are doing. You know what I mean?
Oh really?
It's kind of like like marble rather than just kind of straight up in your face. So. Gonna give it a try, see if I like it, and then maybe do my CSM again.
Okay.
Yeah, I really want to paint an army using marble effect.
What?
So I really like. I think it's I've seen a technique on YouTube where you can do it really nicely, like stippling. Stippling. Sorry, stippling. Lots of different like that. White base stippling.
You can give them beards as well if you want.
Lighter and darker greys, like stippling, and then put some more harsher lines on. I might do that for my secret army that I have that I'm going to build in 9th edition.
Oh, okay.
Keep hearing about the secret army. I wonder what it is.
Looks like I'm definitely intrigued today.
Yeah, you're intrigued, Tommy's sexual prowess.
Well, the problem is we never know if that's true or not. It's Schrodinger's sexual prowess.
Yeah. Also, can I just say big love to everyone in the chat. Ratha Singmal, thanks for subscribing for the first time. But Bar on Saturday, thanks for subscribing for the 15th month in a row. You guys rule. And also a big love to all the other guys in the chat who are also going to be doing their Death Guard in a kind of creamy colour. I know that that's fairly popular anyway.
It looks good though. There's a reason for it.
Yeah, man, it looks sweet AF. And I saw someone painting up a Custodes bike today in a white colour scheme, and I just was like, oh, sacre bleu, toute la manche, yeah, poop poop poop. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So,
hey Rob, did you know that we're all mostly known as painters and hobbyists here on this show?
Are we?
Yeah, that's what I'm mostly known for, bro. You know.
Who by?
I don't know, just randos on the internet.
Well, hello, randos on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, Rob used to be known as a lore master, but now he's a painter and a hobbyist.
Who knew?
Okay.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew?
I think one day we need to ultimately find out who is the biggest lore master.
Oh, between us three.
Quiz. Yeah.
All right, yeah. Honest Wargamer quiz. Maybe that's something we could do next week, just because, unless the edition comes out. Yeah. All right. Should we talk about this news that we've seen?
Yes.
And what we might.
Where shall we start?
Okay. Hold on.
What about
I don't have an
at the start of the
appropriate
show?
prop.
We've got the
You go. I was gonna just go for an appropriate prop, but it didn't work.
Okay.
Go on, after you.
I was going to say, should we start at the start of the show where we've got the most brain space and brain power with the hardest thing to read in the world?
Oh, here we go. This is the dance cover.
Are we dense terrain? Is the real question.
No.
Are we the dense terrain? Yeah.
We might be.
Okay, so yeah, the rule that Nick is talking about obviously is dense terrain. Wasn't like the rule for dense terrain was put out. Can we just say though, after we gave them loads of shit online the other day about the dense terrain, that they've now started to bullet point their new rules.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. I'm all about it. So yeah, we got a particularly wordy rule for dense terrain. But Tom, you're the one with the summation, or Nick, do you have the summation?
So, does anyone want to read out the actual rule and like?
I don't think anyone wants to hear us read out.
No one wants to hear it. I don't want to say it. No.
We
No,
could turn it into a drinking game. It'd be great. Every time you hear the words a terrain feature, take a shot.
I'm in. Yeah, so we're not going
Are
to
you,
read it
are you,
out.
you don't need. I don't mind.
Do you want to give us? Do you want to give us the top down, Tom, of it?
So effectively, I summarized this in a bunch of groups, and it comes down to 2 bullet points. The first one is units gain a -1 to hit if every model is partially within or partially blocked, and that means another piece of dense terrain is in the way from your shot to the model to the one of the models in the unit that you're shooting at. By a piece of terrain with dense cover, which sounds like it's a keyword. And then the second part is attacking models ignore obstacles that are within 3 inches, that they are within 3 inches of, and dense cover that they are on for the purposes of determining which terrain it is generating the -1 to hit for the unit that you're shooting at.
Okay.
Is effectively the summary.
And like, what are you like? And how do you both feel about that?
I don't think it's necessarily going to be a hugely impactful rule.
Yeah, agreed.
Because -1 is capped at -1.
Yeah.
Loads of things already have -1 debuffs already to shooting to hit them. So it's not. It would have been way worse if you could still stack minuses, because you could have like Eldar dudes sat in there getting an extra -1. But because it's capped at -1, I think it's going to make a little bit of a difference every now and then, but not a huge amount of difference.
So me on this, although I don't think it's going to make a massive difference in game, because as Nikos says, the -1 cap does have a big impact on that. I do think it's going to change individual armies. For example, I'm not sure you'll see as many Alatok armies around. I think you might see people switch to things like Ulthway or to things like unique Eldar sub-faction rules that you can find in the Psychic Awakening books. Because if you're already able to get access to that -1, why do you need the -1 from Alatok, right? It just devalues it quite a bit. So you may see a bit more variety in terms of what you see from sub-faction rules.
Which I think is really nice, because basically you only ever really saw a Latok Eldar.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of cool other factions for Eldar, which would be nice to see.
I think you sometimes saw the custom ones, but that's about it.
And like another thing I'd like to say about, because there's quite a lot of factions that had like a -1, and I don't know how many, what other people who've played like Alpha Legion or a Latok or Styges, which is -1 to hit. Yes, it's good, and it was always one of the best, particularly for Eldar, but it was also one of the most frustrating and tedious and annoying factions to play, because so often, like you'd say to your opponent, "Oh, they're at -1 over 12, blah 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 blah," but then it's one of those things that you kind of always had to remind yourself or your opponent that it was a -1, and they might have like shot something. And you have to go back in time because they didn't apply the -1, because blah 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 blah. It's I was kind of hoping that they would phase that kind of over 12 inches -1 thing out, swap it for something else.
Okay.
But at least it's capped at -1.
That's fair. I do think you'll still get a similar issue, though, in terms of you've just got a bunch more rules, specifically if you are seeing the custom faction traits, whereby it's now not just like a Master Artisans and the ignores cover one. So that's like you get to reroll a hit, a wound, and a damage every time you fire, and the one that allows you to ignore cover. And you might see a few more of those popping up, and you're like, just so you know, I've got this rule, but I also have this rule, and it's always kind of unique rather than it just being every Eldar army is -1 to hit.
Yeah,
I think that's the other thing as well. Like it also makes cover that's not. It makes it less impactful. Realistically, like I understand what you mean, that cover means that you might choose different armies, but it also means that you might just choose to be in cover less. Like it has less of an impact, if that makes sense. Like dense cover. Like we're only looking at dense cover, right? We already know. We already known about like obscuring cover, and I feel like the obscuring cover is going to have a much larger part. I think actually, had it not been for the incredibly wordy way it was written, most of us just would have just fucking like glossed over this as just like, all right, whatever. Like, you know, like we did with light cover. It's just like, cool, not bothered. Even though weirdly light cover means that the charging unit gets cover and the charged unit doesn't. But we'll ignore that because of the way
Yeah.
it's written. But my positive takeaway from
Yes.
from the terrain from the cover rule
Dense
is
cover. Yeah.
dense cover rule, is the same as it was previously with the other long-winded rule that we saw, in that they've thought about problematic interactions that could happen to this rule,
Yeah.
and then they've written that into the core rule with bullet points. And I think actually that makes me more and more confident as time goes on that
Yeah,
they've-
there's some foresight in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have had 3 years of an edition to work on that foresight, right? So, I mean, more hindsight, but it'll do for now. And I'm hoping to see, like, in the book, some crystal clear examples of some of the pieces
what?
of information. Pardon me?
You said crystal clear. Don't worry about it.
Oh, right. yeah. Sorry, I'll try.
Very excited.
Very
You mentioned
excited.
Penny.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that what we end up seeing is, like, we see some integration, like we see some really well written rules, and we also see some really really competent rules at the start, and this gives me confidence in that as well. Does that make sense? They also, another interesting another interesting point on this rule, thanks to Pete for bringing it up, is that they talked about bases as opposed to the model, right? Because we've talked modeling for advantage or modeling for disadvantage has been a thing that's been around for a long time. So having the conversation that it's from base to base or hull to hull, and obviously they haven't clearly defined what hulls are yet, but maybe they have. Means that it doesn't matter if you've got a particularly pretty model. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's a bonus,
Yeah, because
right?
I was looking at my looking at my knob. This one. This guy, he's got like quite a wide stance.
He's quite a wide knob, is he?
Yeah, so he's got his gun in his right hand, and he's like pointing out to the right, and he's got his power claw, and he's like pointing out to the left, and he's like shouting "wow" at someone. So I was thinking, if I'm trying to hide him, he's quite wide stance, so he's going to be seen more. So I'm going to have to stand him side on or think about that. But if it's just targeting to the base, well, I suppose, like, are we talking? Do you think line of sight is going to be from base to base?
I don't
Or
think
do you
it's about that. I think it's just, as far as I know,
This is more about, like,
cover, right? Yeah,
cover-
it's just
cover,
for generating
yeah,
cover, which was
generate.
always the case, right?
So line of sight's still going to be true line of sight.
Yeah, I would assume so. I haven't seen anything that would change my mind about that. It's just, I mean, this is the way base is the way it's always worked, right? And even then, like, most 40k players were like drawing line of sight from bases anyway, right? So it's a case of, like, base is always considered part of the model for purposes of, like, the vast majority of rules in 40k. I don't know how it is in AOS, but
I don't know. I don't know what the rules. I can't remember exactly what the rules
yeah.
stated, but I
know.
never really drew line of sight to the base.
Flyers
I don't know if I
often did, so you'd fly up with your flyer, and then you fire under a wave serpent or something.
Yes.
Or like you draw a line of sight from your toe, just so you can get underneath that skimmer.
Yeah, which is why I think actually measuring from the base, like, or the hull as they described for true line of sight, kind of makes sense, like, to a degree. It also would make, and this is really important, it would make cover, like, as in drawing line of sight, it would make cover easier, if that makes sense. But could be, you see, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? Like, like, I have a dude who stood behind a brick wall or a wall, and you can see the very tip of an antenna, yeah, right, on his backpack, like the very tip, and you're like, cool, I'm going to shoot and murder that guy, right? So, but in that situation, true line of sight, you can see the model, and you end up killing the model. Whereas the other version, I measure base to base, there's a marine behind a halfway up wall, and I can't measure from my base to his base. So even though I could see half of him and I could blow a hole through his chest, I also can't, like, do that in that set of rules. So the problem for them as designers is that, like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I'm not. We all know that I am not on their side, so let's just put that out there. I'm on your side, kind listener and fellow traveller on this journey we call life. But can you see what I mean? Which of those two situations do you want to occur? Which would you prefer to occur?
I
Go
would
on.
prefer it to be base to base because I think it's way cleaner that way. And I think they could go that direction because they've got the new rules like the obscuring thing. So certain keyworded terrain is effectively infinitely high for depending
Yes.
on your wounds, depending on your wounds thing.
Yeah.
So anything that isn't obscuring, you just draw a line from the base to the base and go, am I in range and can I see you from base to base? It doesn't matter how tall or whatever your model is. Then you can you can make your model however you want, and it doesn't matter that it's going to be seen over that wall or that.
Unless you're going for width, though, right?
Yes.
Because you can still poke your wing out the side.
No, but
I
I
don't
mean,
know how they're going to define that.
if it's just bases, then
Yeah, yeah.
it doesn't matter how wide your wings are. If your bases,
Right, but I need to
yeah,
I need to see evidence of that, though, right? Because we're talking about targeting and
it's just
generating
wild
cover.
speculation, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's fine.
no, but
I've got no
I am
evidence.
I'm
Wild
giving you two
Sorry.
versions, Tom. I'm giving you two versions. Which is your preference? To see the tip of the antenna or have to go base to base? Do you see how not narratively? So I mean, like, and cinematically, the wrong word as well. Realism. You know, some form of realism. It's hard for them to write those rules, right? Like, I can see a tiny tip and I can destroy the model. Like, you know, if it was real, you'd just be like gun barrel to
Yeah.
model heart. Yeah, and if you can't draw that line, then you don't get the opportunity.
I mean, we did have a similar thing. So in 7th edition, when you guys were, I don't know if Nikos was playing, but you were playing, Rob, there was a discussion at one point, which is very funny, about whether you could target an Eldar jet biker or not, because you weren't allowed to target the war gear of a model, right?
Right.
So let's say you could only draw a line of sight to a last cannon that was poking out. You couldn't target that model because it was war gear. Well, the bike was listed as war gear.
Right.
So you can only shoot if you hit the
So
right.
you could only shoot the little dude on the top of the bike.
See,
Now,
I
everyone
don't
called
hate
that
that. That makes sense, right? In a weird way. I mean, if you blew a couple of
I
holes
know,
through the
but they were
bike,
broken enough, Rob. Don't give them any more stuff. Don't
yeah,
give them any more stuff.
yeah, I'm not
And they
encouraging
didn't.
them.
So TO's
Yeah.
got involved and said, "Nah, screw you." So you're
Yeah,
able
but
to shoot the bike.
I was just trying to point out it's actually the hardest. It's the hardest. It's a hard rule to work out. So
I feel
whatever
like it's
they've-
just subjective, right?
Yeah, I think honestly it is at this stage, and so it feels a bit weird. And we have to understand that when we see a model statically, there is some sort of concept that they're kind of moving around that area a tad. So maybe they pop their head above.
or
You can
it's
see
or it's not the. It's kind of like where their model is in their turn isn't exactly where it is for the entirety of your turn. So your model could have shot it as it moved across to that position narratively.
Yeah.
Or even you blow the nose off a bike, that thing isn't flying very well.
I mean, considering how abstract the game is anyway, like, you know, like it's got more kind of like in touch with reality, even though obviously it's not in touch with reality.
Irony, yeah.
Right. So should we talk about? So that's dense cover. So overall thoughts, like happy with it? I'm happy with it personally.
Happy with the rule. It's fine. The wording of it did make me laugh. It was quite funny, but I'm not like angry about it. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Tom.
It was weird to first read, but it was weird in a good way. I'd rather have that than obscure rules with lots of grey areas. Character targeting.
Is character targeting an issue currently?
Yeah, people are saying that if you stood next to basically you can stand two demon princes next to each other, and so long as they're not the closest models, you can't target either of them.
Oh, I think that's just trying their hardest to make it as obtuse as possible. But
That's specifically the word I used.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a bunch of conditions you can meet, and therefore, like, not be targetable.
Okay.
And
well, I'm sure that'll be resolved. So the next up, big one. I don't know if either of you got the article to hand. Is tactical reserves. We finally have worked out what's going on with tactical reserves. Tactical reserves. So they've said. So I'll give you guys some quick highline points. They've said anything that can already teleport in can still teleport in. That's not a problem. However, if there's something you don't have that can teleport in, based on its power level, there is a value in CPs that you can spend to put it off the board. So you can put like a unit off the board, and then you can't bring it on during battle round 1, but you can bring it on during battle round 2. But during battle round 2, you can only bring it on 6 inches within the board edge, wholly within 6 inches of a board edge, not your opponent's board edge, which I think will be defined as the longest edge of their deployment zone.
Yeah.
But maybe it'll be
All
every
their
bit
deployment zone, right?
Yeah, or their deployment zone. Has to be 9 inches away from their deployment zone. Also on the second
Does it have to
turn.
be 9 inches away from their deployment zone?
In the when it deploys on the second turn, unless Nick, do you want to read
No,
that
so
out?
yeah, so on the second turn it can't be, has to be wholly within 6, 9 away, not in their deployment zone or their board edge, and then on turn
But it
3.
has to be, does it have to be 9 inches away from their deployment zone?
I don't believe it
No,
does.
I think it's just not in their deployment zone.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Too.
All right.
So like if we're playing standard Dawn of War, there's I can't deploy in that 12 inches on the left hand side of the board that would have been in their deployment zone. But then on the third turn, the only restriction to it is, it's wholly within 6, 9 away, but not on your on that deployment edge, from that edge.
Yeah, I'm hype because our stompers are just gonna be able to like turn 1, avoid all shooting, board edge it on, let's go baby.
Mate, I've got some absolute jank to tell you about after the stream, by the way, that I saw that I think we can use.
Will the Stomper be able to do that? Can it fit wholly within? Is it less than 6 inches?
Yeah. Well, it will be when I've chopped the front. It will be when I've chopped the front half off. Yeah.
When I've converted it.
When I've converted it, because I'm an orc player. Yeah, it's gonna pop on.
You need to be careful with orc conversions, Rob. I hear some people don't like some conversions.
Well, orc conversions.
Yeah.
Done tastefully.
Lots of people don't like orc conversions. I got a lot of abuse for my orc conversions.
Oh,
you full well know that was a hobby crime.
It wasn't. It was a conversion. Fuck you all.
All right. So, any other specifics, Nick? After turn 2, so you come in with wholly within 6 inches of the board edge, 9 inches away from the enemy. What happens after that?
Well, I think this is turn 3 onwards that you can come in. So I think they seem to have got rid of the can't come in.
I don't know if it's going to be. I don't know if that's going to be a thing in match play though, right? Because I don't see them allowing you to just drop your crap in on the last turn of the game. Do you know what I mean? I think that's a push.
I don't know. What is the rationale for not being able to do that?
But you just reserve all your stuff, turn up on the last turn, or to win the game because your opponent never has an opportunity.
But if you're tabled by then you just lose it all anyway.
Right, there you go. So it'll be a balance, right?
Because they've said like aircraft are going to be able to go off and on the board. So if they restrict it to turn 3, then some aircraft might just, if they go off in turn 3, I think they should be able to come back on again.
Have they said that there is a restriction on when you can bring reserves in anymore?
There's a limit.
It's also going to matter about the mission, though, right? Because if it's very much a progressive scoring, you want to get your stuff on the board as early as possible.
Yeah, I think the right decision. So they haven't specified. That's my question. Have they or have they not?
It just says 3+, so it doesn't say like turn 3. That's when the last. So that if it was just 3, then that would imply that that's the last time reserves can come in. But because it's 3+, that would imply that it's 3 or 3 turn 3
or later.
Or later.
Yeah, I think that's fine. To be honest.
I think that's fine as well.
I think like Thomas said, a couple of the missions that we've seen have required progressive scoring. A lot of the secondaries require some form of progressive scoring, and you to drop stuff on. Also, like again, even turn 3 on, they still have to be wholly within 6 inches of the board edge. I'm right.
Yeah. So there's still restrictions.
So you're not fitting your Astraeus on the board. Sorry, do keep your Forge World bollocks out of here.
Not unless you convert it. Have it on its side.
Convert it.
Base it so it's on its side.
What are you doing with Simon Weekly, the Tree TP?
Well, no, it has a base. So it has a base, and the base size is 150 millimeters. So sideways, it will fit on the 6-inch edge.
But you measure to the hole because it's vertical, right?
No, you measure for line of sight, not for the base. Who knows? But like, anyway.
I think I know, but that's beside the point.
Okay. Well,
carry on.
So what do you guys make of this rule? So just to clarify for everyone at home, you are like well, it doesn't say, but I think the correct reading of that is that it's going to be you can bring reserves on at any point during the game. But I actually see that as a positive.
Seems like it.
Yeah, but you still can't bring them on the first turn, and there's also massive restrictions. Wholly within 6 inches of the board edge. Like, I think it's great. Personally, I really like this.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I like playing armies which have quite a lot of stuff in deep strike. I like playing against armies which have a lot of deep strike because I think I said before that it kind of prolongs the life of the game and makes it a bit more of a to and fro kind of game. Like you're trying to zone out their stuff, they're trying to zone out your stuff. You're trying to bring your stuff in where you want it, and they're doing the same. I like those kind of games. I like the fact that you can come in past turn 3 now because I don't think it's necessarily game breaking because, like Rob said a minute ago, quite a lot of the missions or the secondaries are going to be progressive. So if you're leaving it till turn 4, the opportunity cost of that is that unit could have been on the board doing damage, scoring objective points, but you traded that to come in later to fulfill whatever role you wanted it to.
Yeah.
I like this in terms of my bloodletter bomb list that I have been playing because since the new detachment rules came out and the 12 CP limit and moving towards more like one detachment, I was really worried because that list needs a lot of CP at the start to deep strike a lot of stuff, whereas this may make it cheaper to deep strike a lot of bloodletters, but from the board edge with the restriction.
Yeah.
I need to see the full rules to see if that list is still going to be viable.
I think the thing that people are not missing necessarily, but aren't thinking through is obviously not only can you bring stuff in from the board edge, you can bring anything in from the board edge.
Yeah.
So it automatically makes everything more viable. Like I have let's say I have a super fragile glass cannon shooting unit. Well, I can guarantee that I can bring it on a board edge at a certain point in the game, and I can let it loose fire. Obviously, I lose turns worth of shooting. There are problems with doing that as well, but it also means I take a unit which maybe wouldn't have seen much play because it's short range or because whatever the situation, and now straight onto the board edge, start firing away. Like it's brilliant. It also means they're survivable. I'm thinking about things like tank busters, Nick. Yeah, like if I went up like against a bolter wall, if I know there's just going to be a load of bolters coming in, if that's the meta, or just even generally, I'm like these guys are never going to survive. Now I could buy a truck, which will also not survive, or I could bring them on the table edge, and I could be like, I'm part of the game now. Let's go.
Sorry, I was just going to say this is especially the case when you've got a shorter board. Because beforehand, you could often use like the back 12 inches of the board edge just to kind of keep your stuff alive. For example, tank busters were a great example of this. You could stick them back there, and then just to jump them whenever you really wanted to use them, or just hide them in a little L or what have you. But with the shorter board, it just gives you another option, and it also gives you some counterplay to just getting shot off immediately, right? It means you have to give something up, but it also gives you an option as well, which I like.
Yeah, you can keep the thing off the board that your opponent is always going to alpha strike off the board, and make sure you get at least one turn out of it, which is nice. So it'll remove some of those feel bads that people might have where they've got a new toy that's amazing and they want to use it, but then your opponent goes first and just shoots it off straight away. So you can at least get one turn out of it. I like the fact that it's going to give lots, like Rob said, lots of other units a new lease of life because like everyone has that access to it. So people might start looking at other units and thinking, oh, how can I use that in like a reserve kind of way?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It opens up a load of options, and I'm actually really excited by that. I also think that like using the power levels is a bit of a fucker, really, because then I have to go look up the power level for the unit as well, right? Like
combat roll, man.
Combat roster. Combat roster. Let's go. Combat roster. If you guys don't know what Combat Roster is, that is the army building app that Games Workshop have on their website for building armies, if you will, using power levels, but obviously no one uses that. Let's see what everyone else in the chat is saying. Love that you can deep strike Mortarion. I think that makes loads of sense. Mephisto has pointed out that they've just allowed Poxwalkers to deep strike for 1 or 3 CP, depending, with the new Death Guard rules, and you can do that now for 2 CP. Like, so, instead of
And they
3.
said it would be compatible with the new edition.
Yeah. So Neil, also, can we give some big love to Neil in the chat? Just had a little baby, so I'm sure Neil would love. I mean, he didn't, but you know what I mean. He was there. Given it will be harder to hide your army out of line of sight due to the new terrain rules, it's going to be very risky to keep large chunks of your army off the board. So yeah, as something said there. Has Tom gone?
Disappeared.
Has Tom been
Into the
overwatched?
nether.
Has
Tom
he
has
been
been
overwatched?
No, I know what's happened. He's disappeared into some dense terrain, and we can't see
Oh,
him.
of course. Yes, we can't see it. So we've just had a quick question in the chat, and Age of Sigmar one very quickly. Do we think that the board size for 40k is going to also be the Age of Sigmar terrain? 100%. Calling it now.
1,000 times, yes.
If I could bet all of the things that I owned on that being the result for that, then I would, hoping to double up. Circon, I'm also playing over 40k, but I'm jumping in to play smaller point games. Honestly, it's looking really, really good. Yeah, can you bring a Bastion up later? That's interesting whether or not you'll be able to do it with vehicles. Not vehicles, with terrain pieces, but I'm not sure.
I don't think you'd be able to. Surely you won't be able to deep strike in a building.
No, I think that would be OTT. Yeah,
outrageous.
that would be outrageous. So I, for one, am a big fan of this. I think it's good. I think it opens up a whole bunch of units. One of the things that I'm most invested in when we're talking 40k or we're talking Age of Sigmar, when we're talking Warhammer, is I want more units to be more viable in the game. Yeah. I don't want them I hate it when list diversity is a thing that I think is really exciting. If there's the ability to be list diverse, then I feel like it's a more complicated and thus more skillful play state. That's not to say that if there's only 2 lists in the game, the list and the counter list, that you can't have a skilled game as well. I just think it's more interesting. I like this. I think it gives me loads of options, especially as an orc player. Yeah, bunch of killer cans, stick them on the board edge, just hope for a 9. Yeah,
Scorches.
I'm in. Yeah, scorches. Yeah, I'm in. I'm about it. So I think it's really good.
What units do we think are going to benefit the most from it?
Sorry, guys. What are we talking about?
The reserve still. So
yeah,
like glass cannon units that are just going to come in and wail on a particular unit, and then you accept they're going to die. That's how I see units making the best out of this rule.
I think it's mid-range shooting units more than it is combat units. I could see why you would want to put some combat units off the board, but I feel like it's going to be mid-range shooting units where you just these shoot 24, right? These shoot whatever they shoot, and I'm not very comfortable with them. And now you're like, well, actually, this is the one. So I like that. That's what I think.
I mean, a lot of it's really useful for just ducking the alpha, right? For example, let's say you've got Mortarion and you're going second, and you're worried that he's just going to get turbo nuked off the board turn 1 because you don't have a chance to get your buffs up or something like that. Well, now you can reserve Mortarion, you can bring him on, you can cast Miasma of Pestilence on him, so he's got that -1 to hit, and then you can just go. Obviously, Mortarion's not a great example because
do you know what is a good example though? Is his Smash Bro Magnus? It's just because obviously the psychic phase happens. The psychic phase happens after the movement phase. So end of the movement phase, you bring Magnus on and he just starts smiting like it's going out of fashion.
With his longer range as well because he's Thousand Suns.
Yeah, right. And then
he can get all his defensive buffs up as well. It's like, right, well, now you can try and remove me because firstly, I've had a couple of turns where I've been exchanging volleys a little bit back and forwards. I've lost a lot of firepower, but you've lost a lot of firepower too, which means maybe you don't have quite enough to deal with this guy on 1 turn. Plus, I can come on and immediately cast my buffs up, which is going to make him even harder to deal with.
Yeah. I'm about that. I think that's good. I think there's a whole bunch of things that maybe could benefit from it. And you would have to crack open your codex and go through it. But I think it's more of an effect than people think it is. I think it's a bigger deal. Yeah, I think reserves. I think that anything can be reserved is a bigger deal than people.
Yeah, I really like it.
Are latching onto.
It's nice for knights. because I think like Questor Imperialis, they have a stratagem where they can outflank a knight, but the
could do that
Mechanicus
all-
knights
yeah,
don't. So
yeah.
you can do some cool shit with knights. Like,
So basically, you just invalidated the Imperial Knights again.
Well, Chaos Knights
How?
can do it now, right?
yeah, Chaos Knights can do it as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chaos Havocs with Reaper chain cannons. What about that?
That's an
What about?
amazing unit. Yes, I love that.
They die fast though.
Yes.
Well, I mean, but if they do the job right, what about a
Yeah,
Fire
exactly.
Raptor?
As you go.
Like off the board, yeah, in reserve. Comes
there's one
on.
problem with. Well, there are two problems with Fire Raptors. The first one is the only one I'm going to mention, and that problem is you have to assemble and paint a Fire Raptor for that to work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, I think the other things that get a bonus are going to be rapid fire weapons. Rapid fire units with rapid fire weapons are going to be. I mean, dare I say it? A Hellblaster's rapid fire. There's a rapid fire Hellblaster variant.
There is a
isn't there?
Hellblaster.
I love the idea of just bringing on a bunch of plasma jerks and just gunning down. I think that's the one. Anyway, if you guys
Do you know
listen to
one
this,
last thing though, Rob? Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you know what I really want to see? I want to see some of those flamer doggos from AdMech come on the side of the board and just scorch something.
oh yes,
Yeah, because they've
okay,
got those range 12 flamers.
yeah,
I bet that'd be
okay.
funny. Yeah.
That will be funny.
That's what I'm really gutted about. Orcs didn't get anything like that to get +3 range in their weapons, because that would have made Burner Boys actually good.
Yeah, and Nikos just wants to use his Chinox, guys. Come on.
Come
Yeah.
on, I just want them burner boys to be a thing. Yeah. 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 I think there might be some real strength there. Well, what about a Squigoth? Keep a Squigoth off.
I was
Board
I was
edge.
browsing the Squig off the other day because I've got a tax rebate, and
Oh.
I was looking. It's like, what am I going to spend this on? And I saw a gargantuan Squig off, and I was like, I'm never going to use this model. I'm never going to use this model. But
Yeah,
it's fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. What are you running? Listen, I brought a giant dinosaur to this
Hey.
game, and don't you talk to me anymore. Yeah.
As soon as you guys take Stompers to the GT, I'm just going to take a Squig up and I'm just going to flex.
We're doing it together.
I know,
Yeah,
I know.
the
but I've
Orc
got-
Bro
mate,
list.
Mate, the power of one-upmanship is too powerful. I can't control it.
I
I need
also-
to be a complete cock.
I also
Should
want
we open? Oh, sorry.
no, I was going to say I want other honest wargamers that are going to like. We'll all say
We're
we're
just gonna
attending.
flood the heat with
We're
Stompers.
attending this 40k
I'll say
GT.
we open it up. We say, look, anyone else wants to come to this tournament,
This is
be
the
on
list
our
we're running.
team. You've got
Yeah.
to bring a Stomper though.
The
Yeah.
only problem with that is we're just going to have all the Stompers knock each other out. Pepe hand. It's going to be really sad.
But it will also be awesome. Yeah, why have
Oh,
11
yeah,
people
the
turned
great
up with
again.
Stompers at this event? Like, because it'll be fun.
There's more Stompers than have ever been bought.
Right, so
Someone's got China here. Like, know.
right, so that's the outfit. That's reserves, and I think that is one that we're going to have to come back to in the future. Like, and if you guys are listening, and you want to tweet us or you want to drop us a message, the Twitter or the Facebook with or leave some comments below in the YouTube with your best reserve unit that like maybe didn't see play before, and now you're like, this is the one. Yeah, this is where they're at. I'd like to.
Yeah.
I know. I'd like to hear about it. Right.
Yeah, I've heard people saying like Centurions and things like
I
that.
mean, Centurions are already good. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they're already very good. I'm sure that, but to be honest, I'm sure they're one of those units that will see a bit of a price hike.
I would hope so.
So,
Otherwise, that's a yikes.
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, we should do that. We should do the orc thing. We're gonna do it. And then no matter what happens, I'll just declare myself the winner of the tournament, and then or you two the winner, whoever places the highest. Like it'll be like a moral victory.
so when Games Workshop are doing their event,
Rob just gets on the stage and says,
awards,
"Fuck you,
we'll just do our own separate awards at the back.
For the Stomper team.
In both
Stomper
Yeah.
team.
yeah,
Right.
in the
Anyway.
bar on the balcony. It's fine.
So next up, the morale phase. Now, I have been talking about how much I've been looking forward to reading what they plan to do with the morale phase, and I was disappointed by it. Tom, I think you think it means basically nothing, but I would like to try and unpack it a
I
little
don't think it
bit.
means basically nothing, but yeah, we can talk about it.
So do you want to let us know, like, do you want to talk us through it?
Sure. So the morale test effectively works the way it always did in terms of you roll a d6 and then add the number of models you lost that phase. And then if you surpass your leadership value, you then take casualties, right? But the way you take casualties has drastically changed. So now, what used to happen was you take a casualty for every point above your leadership you failed by, right?
Hmm.
Now what
Yeah.
happens is if you fail it, it doesn't matter how much you fail it by, you take one casualty, and then for every other model in the unit after that point, you roll a dice, and then if you roll a one, then you have to remove a model from a unit, right? I don't think it's on a model by model basis. I think it's I've got 9 models, I roll 9 dice, I then
Yeah.
pick up like three guys, right?
Similar to if your vehicle explodes and you roll a dice for each one
Right, right.
side.
And this is the thing. So the units that's most likely going to affect the worst are things like, are theoretically big units, right? Things like conscripts, things like orc boys, things like Tyranid, Termagant, and Hormigaunt hordes, right?
Yep.
Because you've got to roll a lot of dice, and therefore you're going to roll a lot of ones. Firstly, let's say that you do fail that test. You then roll like 6 ones. You've lost 6 guys. It's not really worth too much. But secondly, all of those units have ways around morale. You have commissars for the conscript, where if you're running that break, you're probably going to take a commissar. You've got mob roll for the orc boys. Again, you've got the same issue. And then you've got synapse for the tyrannids, right? So most of these large units that it's really going to affect have that massive problem. Now, but where it's going to have an impact is where you're going to be taking smaller units. So, for example, let's say you've got a squad of Shining Spears. Shining Spears are they are not a great leadership value. I believe they're leadership 8. So you fail one, you lose a guy, and then you roll 7, you're going to lose another one. And that's a bigger impact in terms of points lost, assuming current points cost, than it would be to lose like 6 orc boys, right?
Well,
So the
yeah.
things that most affect are things like paladins, leadership 8 and 9, Shining Spears, leadership 7 and 8, and other units that are elite in nature, but come to around 10 bottles in the unit, where you're
So,
likely to roll 1 or 2
so,
dice.
so I actually think it's a little bit more nuanced than that because I think that they're like
I mean, it was a summary, but yeah.
yeah, no. Sorry, what I mean is
You're
is what its
fine.
impact is because like I
Yeah.
think your Shining Spears is a good example, right? Of like it's gonna make the example for your. So let's look at the game state as a whole, top down, from what we think we know. We think
Yeah.
the game is generally going to have more elite units. We
That's what they
also think
intend
the
for.
game, yeah, we also think the game is going to have more elite kind of like min squad units than it is like big like blocks of
MSU.
10 Terminators. Yeah, it's going to be more MSUE, like there's going to be more small elite units than it is going to be large bricks of things. Generally, because they're putting the points up on units, they've said that there's blast weapons to deal with hordes. Like, there's a lot of stuff here. Whereas actually in this setup, those elite units, those ones that probably or might have a bigger impact in the game, are a little bit more susceptible. Because if you fail a morale check, a leadership check, Tom, on like a unit of custodies bikes, if that's even possible, like, you know, like
Losing your guy is a big
sorry,
deal.
in your Chinese Spears example, yeah, like losing that extra one, yeah, is a big deal,
Yeah.
right? Whereas on a 10-man infantry squad whose bravery is very low, yeah, it's like a 6. So you wipe out 4 of them, you roll a 6, that whole unit's gone. But in this situation, you fail the morale check, you roll that unit. Actually, those little 10-man infantry squads are more likely to stay around with lower bravery than they were
Right. Yeah.
previously, right?
Right.
So
And this is the thing. Yeah.
so I
Sorry,
think
finish your point.
I think that's great. Whereas your bricks of like I mean Orc Boys are a bad example because obviously they've got their innate buff
Mob
anyway.
rule. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Conscripts are the example you're looking for here, Rob.
yeah. Conscripts. Thank you, conscripts, because they
Yeah.
don't have
I
an
know where you go.
innate way. But you already are playing knowing that at some point you might spend 2 CP to do insane bravery on them, right? To make it so
Yeah.
that they're going to pass the morale check.
Or
But
you just
now,
didn't care that they ran away.
This is the thing.
but
Why would
but
I
now
invest in a commissar now? Why would I ever do it?
you don't need to. You don't need to because
Right.
it's a buff for the horde.
Yeah.
It's like
Like you
it's a,
don't really care if you lose 6 dudes, and if you lose 6 dudes, well, I'm not taking a commissar to stop 6 dudes hypothetically running away, right? Why would I care? I don't give one. It's not a
But
big
the-
deal for me, right? Whereas
but
beforehand, if you failed the morale check, you were susceptible to losing a massive brick of infantry.
Yes, exactly. And I think actually, so this has made morale less impactful on the units where it was already really impactful. So those little 10-man units, those big hordes, and it's made it impactful.
More
Maybe,
impactful than everybody else.
maybe.
Yeah,
Like I would have,
potentially. Yeah.
I would have to. And also, good point out, Pokey John. A 1 is just going to auto pass those morale checks. They've also put that in. A 1
Yeah.
auto passes a morale check, which is pretty wild, right?
It's kind of like
But
the bonding knife on the town. Yeah.
Yeah, but if a unit is at half strength, so if it's got half its models left, it doesn't just fail those tests on a 1 and 2. So you fail the break check, you roll 10, let's say you got 10 models left in the unit, you roll 10 dice, any 1s. But if the unit started out as 20, it's now going to be 1s and 2s to make them run away.
Yeah. And does the modifier for, if you have like a leadership modifier, does that apply to the roll to see if your models run away as well, right?
No.
Okay, because I'm just getting confused by chat then. So I don't know whether that makes it even worse then. Like, it's actually a lot of garbage.
It's, well, like the guys in the chat saying, it's you're going to be rolling a lot of dice. For sometimes it seems like a lot less impact in the game. But I would say that, like, unlike Age of Sigmar, 40k, you've got the ability to go, do you know what? I'll just ping 4 or 5 wounds off that infantry squad over there. Like, you've got loads of options to do that in 40k.
Reach.
Yeah, you've got that reach, so you can just be like, I'm just going to ping those 4 or 5 wounds, and then they're going to take a morale check, and off they go. Whereas in this situation, they lose 4 or 5. They've got that chance to auto pass. That's cool. But even if they fail it, then you still roll a bunch of. You still got like a little bit of a. I think it's good. I think.
Yeah, because that was kind of something that I did when I've been playing my Bloodletter bomb list. Because quite often, a lot of the time, I would be looking to clear chaff, and like chaff might be little 5 or 10 man squads of infantry. So I would kind of try and spread the damage by doing, like you say, 4 or 5 wounds to a unit, hoping to pop it off with the rest of morale. Whereas that's not going to necessarily be possible now, because they're more likely to just have that one dude there who's got that massive 9-inch bubble around him to stop me deep striking in.
It also means that like they might be able to integrate some more bravery modifying abilities in the game, like that are going to maybe have more of an impact. You know, like,
and I think they said in the article that units which have mechanics which make one more model run away have got a little bit better because of this change, which I think I agree with. The value of those rules has gone up a little bit more, because if they fail, they lose 1, they lose 2. Guaranteed. Yeah.
So, but would it be if I lose 2 or lose 4?
No.
I don't think so. They're just one more model runs away in addition to the other.
Especially when it's more affecting those elite units, right? Whereas before, if you lose 20 guys, so one more guy isn't really a big deal.
But it does mean that there's a way to try and hit those elite units, right? And then ping them out. I mean, the one to auto pass is going to be that. It's a fun kind of like not hark back, but it's a fun counterpoint to the explode rule, right? On a 6.
Yeah. Well, I'm used to that. Demons had that already, so
yeah.
Everyone's catching up with demons.
Detcom says there's a Death Guard strat that doubles the number that run as well, which is a pretty big one. You know, so maybe we'll see some things. So maybe the morale phase change isn't significant, and maybe it's not going to impact loads. But I think it's a little bit more nuanced than maybe we're giving it credit for. But that's just how it. Go on.
I was expecting a bigger change than that, but I suppose to make a bigger change, they'd have to, like, I don't know, work other rules around as well. I don't know. I don't really know exactly what I was expecting, but I was kind of figuring they'd do that was going to be one of the biggest changes.
I mean, I would have seen some sort of rule where if a unit is under half strength, they just have to roll it every time. You know, they just break.
Like a break test.
Yeah, they just keep breaking every turn. Every turn, it's just like, well, there were 30 of us, and now there are 10. Like, and we've auto passed that one, but next turn, 20 lads have died, so like I'm gonna keep rolling that check every time. I think that would be quite fun, and maybe that would be like maybe that's more of a win more condition as well. So like your opponent's beating you up. I don't know if it helps. I don't know if it's a change that helps armies that are already winning. Like if I'm on the losing side, if I'm having my teeth kicked in on the table, if I'm already losing some models, like, does this help me? I don't think this overly helps me. But then, was morale really a phase that anyone cared about before? I guess that's my question.
I feel like that rework of morale was more than a rework of the phase, though, right? So I'm looking forward to see where they implement morale across the course of the entire rule set and not just within the phase.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of a game. I'm sure there must have been games where morale was an issue, but I can't think of that many games in 8th edition where morale was really a problem for me.
Oh, no.
Multiple games where it's like, oh man, I had loads of issues, like someone was spreading damage around, and there's so many dudes winning away. But
Yeah,
it
I can
felt
think
like
of one game that's it.
it felt a little bit all or nothing.
Yeah,
I'd either lose everything or nothing.
I
in
can
eighth
think of
edition,
I can think of one with my AdMech because they actually have got pretty low bravery, which is was a bit of a so when I used to take big bricks of chickens, that would be Sindonian dragoons. They actually suffered in this setup, which wasn't positive. So that's an example I can think of. But that's my own fault for taking big bricks of 6 chickens. I really should have taken units of 3 or something. So, what was your example, Tom?
So I was going to talk about my example being the final of the GT Heat 1 in 2018 against Mark Rumbleholm in the final game, where I'm playing my Eldar against his Drakari, and all my Shining Spears ran away on the double 6.
Oh, awful. Yeah, so 6 and
that
a
was
6.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
but
didn't have a CP to spend on an auto pass, so.
Well, I think also everyone in the chat is excited by the design space. So if morale is something that they can play around with more, or if you've got it gives them the ability to add new abilities, which we could do some more stuff with.
It's more agency in the game, right?
Yeah, which is cool. Which is super cool. Okay, that's the morale phase. It's pretty fun. Next, oh my god! So before we get to them guys, we'll talk about the other rule that we saw today, which was units that fly can no longer fall out of combat and continue to shoot.
Screw you, wave serpents.
Yeah, screw you, wave serpents.
It's okay, I'll just smite you off and then shoot you.
So what do you think?
So if we were to assume there were no other rules coming for Tau, it makes this edition look like a massive kick in the balls for that faction, right? Specifically because all your best units really have the fly keyword, so that completely ruins Riptides. You've already got shorter boards, so all you need to do is run across a board, hit a Riptide, and then, you can't do anything. And then, assuming that you don't have the other rule we're going to talk about in a minute, overwatching is much harder anyway, right? But obviously, we are going to talk about the rules, so it's kind of irrelevant there, and it's why I think they absolutely needed it.
Can I just say that I actually think that this is fantastic? Like, I feel like the game already had a load of haves and have-nots. Talking about list diversity, unit diversity, and what we can see on the tabletop. We already saw a lot of units that had... It's like, I have this unit that's good, but I have this other unit that's fly, and good. So, it's always... do you know what I mean? It's always going to be this unit, because it's just so much more forgivable in the game. You know, someone makes the charge, someone does something. I have loads of outs extra, and this is this is taken away. And not all of those problem units, because there's a bunch that we could talk about, but specifically the vehicle-based ones. Obviously, Nikos already hit on a bugbear of mine. But also, let's talk about not impulsors, because no one's ever seen. Never seen one of those. But a repulsor, those guys now, if they get tagged, they can shoot into that combat, which is great. Yeah, but they now can't fly away. But then also, by taking that rule away universally from everyone, which is great, it allows armies that could also do that. Now that's their core rule, Ultramarines, are better. Because
it gives more value to that rule, right?
Yeah, it does. It gives more value to that rule. So, I personally think it's a brilliant change. Tick box from me, 100%, high fives all around, everyone's happy. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it just brings everything back in line. Vehicles
hold on.
in general.
Sorry, Nick. Can I just quickly clarify? It's not flyers, it's the fly keyword. So units with the fly keyword can't fall out of combat and shoot. Unless, obviously... Wait, if you spend the CP strat to fall out, you can do that, right? No.
I'm just checking.
Which CP
I don't believe so, no. All that Desperate Breakout, all that allows you to do is get past...
I think it specifically says you can't shoot.
It does. I'm just reading it now. Yeah. Also, with vehicles such as Wave Serpents, you can just shoot into the combat anyway, I guess.
That's the point. They buffed them to... Go on, Nick, sorry. You
I was going to say, it just
completely ruined his moment.
My moment.
Yeah. It was about to go, and then we just straight barged over.
My moment.
Yeah, he's going.
Yeah, it just brings vehicles. Vehicles got a boost because they can shoot to combat, and now the fly keyword thing has gone away. So flying vehicles have come down. So they're all vehicles are kind of all on the same level shooting wise, which is great. And fly is kind of what it should be, where it's just about movement. Because fly was so powerful because you can move out and shoot. It was more than just being able to move over things, as if terrain wasn't there, models weren't there. So yeah, things like predators, which you never really saw from Marines.
Apart from one particular guy in this list, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe almost as good point for point as like other things. Probably not impulsors because that's a Primaris tank, and that's always going to be more better point for point than a firstborn tank.
Yeah, and obviously this doesn't include flyers. Flyers obviously are going to be immune to that. It already said that in the preview article that we saw.
Did it? Because I was going to say, like, if a Demon Prince charges a flyer and the flyer flies away, can it still shoot?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So that's already been covered. So it's not flyers again, just to qualify. Units with the fly keyword, and I think this is just an out and out brilliant change. Again, creates list diversity, makes rules more important where they need to be important. I'm all about it. Tom also, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Fuck your tanks. Yeah. Your transports.
Yeah.
Your transports. Yeah, all of them.
Fuck you too.
Oh yeah, that's thank you very much. That's the right way to talk about it. Not flyers, aircraft. Aircraft exempt from this fly keyword. And I think that's great. Like you can't really normally lock up a unit of grotesques anyway. But I'm happy that I could try, right? A little bit. You know, and also think it gives some sort of like this is just me spitballing now, so don't laugh at me, but maybe it gives things like Terminator some sort of job, right? Like, you know, I land down, I hammer myself into like a vehicle and I'm thinking of like something like a repulsor or something that normally would be able to back out and shoot. And in this situation now, like, it can fire into me in combat. Will it clear me from combat? Probably, but maybe like in shooting, but maybe it won't, right?
Maybe,
and yeah, maybe, but that's a pretty poor strategy. But I'm just wondering, like, maybe there's some units that get like there's more design space there as well. Like you get to interact more. I'm about it. I think it's cool.
I think it's like before you'd tag a tank to stop it shooting, but now maybe you're tagging a tank just to make it shoot you and not something else.
Yeah. Like personally, I think it's a fantastic change. Like they're knocking it out of the park at the minute. I'm all about it. Like they're not putting a foot wrong as I've seen so far.
If they sent you some free stuff,
no,
I'm getting suspicious.
No, yeah. I'm just know me. I'm just confident. Like I'm just like until someone shows me how they fucked it up. Yeah, right now, I see positive changes. Right, like the missions I'm about. Yeah, the objectives I'm about. Like the morale thing, maybe you got to roll more dice. I'm not about that. But like, I feel like all these are systemic changes which needed to occur, and I think that that's a positive. Like, I'm about it. So.
And on that note of Rob likes everything, shall we move on to the other one?
I'm not trying. Like, this is who I am. If I don't like it, you're gonna fucking hear about it. Yeah, but if I like it,
we know. Yeah. I know. That's why I'm bringing up the other one because this one has divided opinion.
Yeah, Games Workshop haven't sent me anything. Not even a cease and desist, you fucking cowards. Right.
The lawyers are too busy writing these rules, mate.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, I'm going to be suspicious if next week Rob is featured as Man Reads Book Guy.
Yeah. Well, Rob's one of the article writers for next week's previews.
Yeah. But to be fair to Ixtab, like when the
have they done the Orc one yet?
No, they've done the Orc one. Yeah. Oh. It's a nothing burger. Like they're like Orc boys. Have you ever thought about these? It's like yes,
I have. So Gretchen about it. Give me Gretchen.
Right. So then the last rule, I think this is the last one, is. Well, I mean, it's a faction-specific one, isn't it? For for them mad dudes. So before we talk about this bit, let's also talk about the fact that they've removed the restriction from moving with a heavy weapon, giving you -1 to hit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone away. For vehicles and monsters, or it's not everyone, is it? It's just for
I
vehicles.
mean,
and
that was
monsters.
always
I think it's just infantry. If they've got a heavy weapon, just infantry take a -1.
Oh,
I
does
mean,
it
you
affect
might be
bikers and
-1
stuff as
anyway,
well?
because of all kinds of plethora of reasons, right? But
Yeah, but they today in the faction focus. Do you want to, Tom, take it away, baby?
Alright, so page 89, for the greater good, change to read: every time an enemy unit declares a charge against this unit can fire Overwatch before the charge roll is made. And then the second bullet point, while a friendly unit with visibility is within 6 inches of this unit, each time an enemy unit declares a charge against this unit, that friendly unit can fire Overwatch before the charge roll is made, and if it does so until the end of the phase, that friendly unit cannot Overwatch again. So the main point here is the designers know. And what that says is this allows Tau units to fire Overwatch in the same way that they did in the previous edition. And as such, units with visibility do not require the fire Overwatch stratagem from the 40,000 core book in order to do so. So, last week, you'll remember they changed Overwatch so that it became a stratagem. Not every unit got to Overwatch every time they were charged. You had to pop a stratagem to Overwatch at a unit that was charging you. This really screwed Tau because they had the for the greater good rule, which allowed them to Overwatch to help units that were friendly to them but were being charged next to them. But obviously, you can't stratagem more than once.
Yeah, however, that obviously was only if they all just ended up, for some reason, standing next to each other in a giant clump, which we never saw.
Never saw that in my life.
Never saw
in my life.
Ball of broadsides or
in my life.
Never saw it.
Never saw it.
Yeah, never happened. Never did that. But also, you also had a Tau Sept, which most people think
literally how I met you, by the way.
Yeah, pink Tau.
Tom just stood behind a wall of white, just like, hello.
Hey, pink and white. Thank you.
Oh, apologies.
Very good. And I used a supremacy suit, not supremacy suit. What's it called? Storm Surge. And it was great. Yeah. And surrounded by Riptides, and it was fantastic. Brilliant.
Who are vehicles.
Who are vehicles. We did double check this. But you also have the Tau Sept, which specifically allows Tau units to Overwatch on 5s. Now, if you're only getting that when you use a core stratagem, it's not particularly valuable, nor is the for the greater good rule if you're only allowed to fire Overwatch with 1 unit per turn. So I think this change was coming. And I think Tau overall, from what I've seen so far, I don't think I've seen too much that's benefited them. You've got reserves that are coming in now, which makes it harder for you to alpha strike against certain armies. You've also got a smaller board size, which means that armies can get in your face quite quickly, and then they can also tag you, because even though you're a flying unit, you now can't shoot when you fall back. So if those Riptides get tagged, often what I quite liked was you take the 3 Riptides and maybe take the 3 broadsides, or you take 6 broadsides, 2 Riptides, and then you'd push the Riptides out and they'd screen off the broadsides, because it doesn't matter if they get charged, they've got a 2+ armor save, potentially a 3+ invulnerable save as well, and they had the fly keyword, so when they got charged, they'd tank the hit, they'd drop out, and you'd shoot as much as you wanted to anyway, right? So it's a massive change.
Battlesuits?
I believe the vehicles. We had to check it a few days ago.
Okay. So they're still going to shoot, yeah, not fall back and shoot whatever they want.
Yeah, this is the thing.
So, okay, let's talk about this, because let's unpack it a little bit. So, because I had a great talk today already. So if you didn't join me today for the stream streak, which I do every day, midday, for the stream streak, I had a great chat with Mr. Vince Woodtreller from Warhammer Weekly, talking about NPE in Age of Sigmar, negative play experiences. I think one of the major gripes, maybe, with playing against the Tau gun line specifically...
like BDE, but okay.
It's kind of... NPE is the exact opposite of BDE. It's little dick energy. Yeah, like... yeah.
I thought it was... Nominal P energy.
No, taking stompers is all big dick energy all day long.
Where did the word stomper came in?
Anyway, what was I trying to say?
NPE.
You were talking about
NPE.
negative play experiences.
Yeah, so the biggest issue, and unlike Joe Rogan, no CBT. But
DMT either.
DMT, that guy. Oh my god, I hate Joe Rogan. He's like a dumb man, smart man. It's just like, I really like Joe Rogan. It's like, sweet.
He just likes to invite people on to talk to.
Oh my god. No, anyway.
He's just a big Neanderthal though, isn't he?
Yeah, let's move on. Right. So my point is that that playing against Tau has always been, well, at least for this edition, a bit of an issue, I think, because people the way that they play, and if you both think I'm wrong or Twitch chat you think I'm wrong, is they generally stand around in a group with drones and broadsides firing away with rerolls to hit in a bubble, and they do hit on fours, and in an environment where there's multiple negative modifiers, it makes sense that they have some issues, and that a shooting army that hits on fours seems weird and difficult, especially versus their marine brethren or counterparts. But if you charge them, the whole army basically could fire at you in Overwatch, which they've lost. They've lost that now. Don't forget, right? So actually, like, people saw that as a negative play experience. I guess the real question is do we all think, and obviously just what we think, it's obviously not fact, do we think that that change means that negative play experience is still there? That's what I'm asking, I guess.
I'm going to recuse myself from this one, specifically because on Twitter I admitted to being a sycophant who enjoys playing against Tau. So I don't have a negative play experience when playing them, but I can understand when it's fair, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
you predominantly played Eldar against them, so.
Also, I can't really when I played Tau a little bit once for like 8 games.
Well, so you don't consider it to be like, listen, and everything inside the game is valid at a tournament, right? But did you not consider like, Nick?
You
Did
might
you
get
play against
battered,
Tau?
but it'd be fun.
What did you think?
I played against Tau quite a lot, and I enjoyed playing against the people that I've played with the army.
Oh, thank you very much.
No issues with the people I played. Like I played Tom. It was the first time met Tom. I played against his Tau bubble, and I had no issues with playing Tom at all. But the army was a little bit boring to play against because it deployed and it shot every turn.
I actually agree with you. Yeah.
That's all it did, and that's generally how Tau armies would work. And I think also another NPE that Tau have is the drones. The drones just don't feel like they need a rework. They get the feel bads for me when you shoot they just ignore. You shoot a last cannon at something 2+ and 5+, they take one mortal wound and they save it and it's deleted.
But
can I share an anecdote very quickly, Rob, just before we get into that? So I played against Tau on Sunday, I think it was, because I played against Innis on Tabletop Simulator.
Yep.
And he was showing me what the crisis bomb did because I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
So I played against it.
Is this a Nikos Pit crisis bomb?
Yes, it's the Nikos Pit crisis bomb. Stolen from Lawrence Baker. So the way this works, because I haven't read into it properly, the way it works properly was we were talking about this on the car on the way back from Belgium. So I knew about the charging, and it's quite good as a counter charge piece anyway. But it's insanely durable because I believe you've got a guy in there with a 2+ save who ignores AP -1 and AP -2.
Iridium armor.
Iridium armor.
1 per 3.
That then you've got 1 per 3.
Yeah, 1 per 3 can have iridium armor.
Okay, because he only had 1 in there.
Well, he's a noob, isn't he?
So yeah, big noob. I didn't realize he could only have. All right, that makes it worse. So he had that, and then he was surrounded by drones, and he had 3 wounds. So effectively, what that means is you got a 2+ armor save, which you can then reroll the command point, which you can then also reroll with a neurochip, the Waller trait or relic or whatever it is. Yeah, Datcom says only one guy gets the ignore AP -1 and 2 though, so that might have been what it was.
That's like a relic or
that's
advanced system or whatever.
Yeah, I probably didn't notice the other ones. So, and then if there's something that you're scared of that is like AP -3, for example, or flat damage free, so you don't get to make benefit of the second reroll, you can then pass it off onto your drones for a different 2+. So your thing's incredibly durable. You only get 1 go because that thing is going to come over and delete whatever it wants, right?
Yeah.
I say he told me what it did. He didn't exactly show me because I walked my paladins up and one-shot the Iridium armor guy through the drones, through the 2 rerolls, and through the 2+ save. And then the bomb died. So yeah, it's one of those where it feels like he told me that in the first turn, because I only killed the Iridium armor guy and one other guy. And he said that's the most that anyone's ever killed, and it's exactly as much as everybody else has killed combined, or two off. So he totally lost, over a bunch of games he played with it, 4 crisis suits, and the most he'd ever lost in a game was 2.
Right. I see. Yeah.
Pretty mad.
This is what I'm talking about the play experience. So for me, it was fine. I just shot it.
My worst Tau playing experience, again, nothing to do with the player, was at a Games Workshop Heat.
I thought you were going to
Where
say me again, though.
I was playing against Tau, so it was the triple broadside list, Fire Warrior ring around it, loads of drones around it, and it was sat on a Realm of Battle board hill in a Citadel Wildwood, and I had to assault it. That was an incredibly frustrating game to play because it was like models were falling over all over the place, and that was definitely
an MPE.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about Tau. Like, can I tell you why? Because I'm also going to be nice to Games Workshop in this situation as well. And at this stage, I feel like you guys. Well, no, okay. Like, let's talk about the army though. Like, the army has got. Oh, thanks very much. Thanks for getting me some ice. Thankfully, my studio is above a bar, which does have an ice machine, so that's the only positive.
The ice machine can bring you ice.
Yeah, he's got like an elevator.
No,
That's
that would be a great ice machine, though. Yeah.
It's like when Rob has a hot date, he just brings the ice up, and there's some champagne left in there already on the.
If anyone donates $800 to the show, I will install like an ice bucket above my head, which you can periodically donate bits to pull on me while I stream. But that's good. The only reason it's so much money, I'll have to like waterproof all of the electronics. So it would be anyway. So let me talk about Tau, because I think actually it's an interesting design space decision, right? It's an army that only shoots. Yeah.
It charges now with the crisis bomb. That's cool.
It does.
Yeah, with one specific unit.
Yeah, but you build your army around, it's fine.
And that's problematic for writing rules, right? Like if we look at AdMech's a good example. If we look at some like concurrent like methodology, AdMech really suffered by having no transports, right? Like they suffered, and so they built a particular way. As soon as you gave them transports, people were just building that army completely separately, right? They were just like.
Well, also, it was giga broken because you just spent a lot of time trying to make this army valuable without transports. I mean, as soon as it got the thing it needed, it was suddenly good.
Yeah, right. So yeah, there's like a line that's been crossed, like so. And that's how I feel about Tau. I feel like they just need to release a couple of Tau combat units, and Tau are a different army.
Yeah, I reckon they could do. Sorry.
That's it. That's all I've got. The only thing I can think is, more
like the battle suits with like Farsight blades. Maybe they'll do more combat suits like that. Or I was thinking they could expand the Kroot range a bit more, because Kroot are more like their combat units, aren't they? So they could just expand the Kroot part of the codex, like big Kroot monsters or Kroot cavalry or
and all that jazz. Yeah,
just Kroot with better armor. Give them some. You've got loads of cool tech. Give the Kroot some stuff, man.
It's called Mega Kroot.
Mega Kroot. I'm into that. Yeah, so I think they need a recruitment drive. Bar on Saturday, 10 points. 10 points. Nice. Congratulations.
Nice
Hold
one,
on.
Andy.
Let me just give you one of those. Yeah, more Kroot. Primaris Kroot. Can't wait to see that. Yeah, let's go. Did I just break the stream? I might have. No, I didn't. It's fine. So I do feel for the rules writers and also for people who play Tau, because they're like
don't feel for people who play Tau.
I know I do, because I'm like lol Tau go bruh. That's them. They're like bruh 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 bruh.
Yeah, and they like that. It's fine.
And they like that. So it is their kink. So how can they? You don't like when someone turns up with a whole bunch of bloodletters and like you're gonna try and deep strike me and charge me. They're like, yeah, like fucking bring it on, baby, bring it on. Like it's not so much of an issue, right? Anyway, that's all I can say about the Tau situation, because I think, and they've got worse objectively. Their whole army now can Overwatch, but they can't Overwatch as an army. So they've lost they've lost for the greater good.
No, they've got for the greater good.
no, they haven't lost for the greater good. Previously, the greater good
What are
was
you
if you
talking
charge.
about?
For the greater good was if you charged a unit, yeah, then the other units within X got to shoot, right?
You can still do that.
Oh,
Yeah,
is
it's
this
the
in?
second
Do you
bullet point.
add? Oh, you add this on.
Yeah, it just means that they Overwatch the same way they did in 8th in 9th.
Is
But
that
they
what it
still got
says?
objectively worse.
Oh,
So
oh,
yeah,
okay. And why have they got objectively worse?
because the boards are smaller and you can't like tank charges with riptides.
Okay. All right, fair enough. All right, well, never mind then. I was like, well, they've actually
You're still
had that.
right, just for different reasons.
Ah, okay. All right. So, what Tom? Would you? Not Tom. Sorry, Nick. You got any thoughts on this, or have we've done the point? I think.
Yeah, I was hoping for more, but I guess Tau, because if this edition is moving more towards a not necessarily a combat edition, but where combat is better than it was before, then Tau, if they lost that completely, then that would probably be too far. And I really feel like if they did that to Tau, there would be a massive backlash on the Tau players. Not that they'd necessarily care, but
They've grabbed their waifus and march upon Nottingham.
yeah.
Well, I also feel like, and as someone who obviously talks about like Age of Sigmar as well, like sometimes it's really hard to like. I do feel for the game designers to a degree on some armies. Like that doesn't mean that I think that they shouldn't spend more money on game designers and playtesting and a whole bunch of other stuff and just do a better job. So, like, we'll definitely put that as a caveat. But I do think that they've designed themselves into a space where they're still like messing up, which is why obviously we want to see, like Mortarion is a good example. What an incredible model that was not viable for like the past year and a half, right? Like maybe more than that, maybe 2 years. So it's such a shame that they make the game like this and some stuff doesn't work. So I'm really hoping the new edition, more than anything, from everything that we've seen today, creates and promotes list diversity. You know, and then for armies that can't have diverse lists, like Tau, who can only shoot, I don't know what to say. You know, shoot more.
Yeah, shoot harder.
Shoot harder. Shoot harder. So, Twitch chat, time for you to ask any questions if you want to. Tom and Nick, are there any big takeaways from any of these points that you think we haven't touched on or that you like the idea of?
I still think a lot of it's contextual, right? We still need to see the full rulebook and then we can go absolutely balls deep on it.
That's fair. I think that's a fair point. Nick?
I think, well, the biggest thing I'm excited about is the reserve rule. I think designing lists with that in mind, rather than it being a reactionary thing where you're like, I'm playing against that, I might want to hide that unit or whatever, react against your opponent. I like thinking about a list that's going to use that to full effect.
Yes.
That makes sense. So yeah,
It does.
designing lists specifically to have, this unit in my list is pretty much always going to be my reserves and go and do the thing.
Okay. Yeah. I think I think that's a big takeaway for me. Circon asked in the chat, are Eldar Wraithguard and bigger version worth a damn in 40k? Like, it's irrelevant.
Certainly hope
none
so.
of us, yeah, but none of us can answer any of these questions right now because we haven't seen points, we haven't seen anything. Like we've seen some elements of it, but like, you know, it's a systemic change, so we have to work from the ground up. We have to understand, and also, and this is super important. Like, before we can understand what's good at all, is we have to understand how the missions are going to work. That's key.
That's a big thing.
That is so key, because that's going to, more than anything, I think, and maybe more than any other edition of 40k so far, we might actually see that the missions might dictate the lists to a degree. And I think that's a massively positive change. If you actually listen to the show I did with Scary yesterday, he said that, because he's got a foot in both worlds of Age of Sigmar and 40k, he says that he's really looking forward to the battle plans and the missions in 40k, because he thinks that he doesn't really write lists with the missions in mind for 40k at the minute.
He writes lists to kill people,
No.
Yeah. Whereas, and I'm not saying that you can't do that currently, but like I think that's going to be the key part, and I'm super hype about that.
I feel Skyri's case is also kind of a little bit different as well, because as well as being a singles player, he is also an ETC/Worlds player, right? So you do tend to get those more skewed extreme lists that are just there to absolutely just body someone's army and then take all the maelstrom points. So that's probably a product of that.
mean, do you think in this new edition it's going to be harder to design lists to kill people? Because I think in general it's going to be harder to kill people, just mainly because of the terrain.
Yeah, and also reserves, yes.
Yeah. So that's turning down people's list from a kill you point of view, and turning it up from a objective point of view.
I mean, I think the reserves thing is just brilliant. It's just like the more we've talked about it today, like just like Tom said, like I'm like, cool, this is my unit, not even my like key unit, but maybe it is. Like I think about Thunderfire cannons just doing what the fuck they want, right? And I'm like, cool, do what the fuck you want, but my main shit's not there. Your turn. Like that's awesome.
Also, we're gonna turn up turn 3 and like right next to your deployment zone, and fart all over your Thunderfire cannons.
Yeah. So I personally think we're only seeing positive stuff at the minute, and the key units that I think needed to be hit. The fly change is also big, so I think we're in a good spot. Yeah. Good. All right. Well, perfect. It looks like when do we think the release date is going to happen? We think it's going to go on pre-order this weekend, or no, they're going to mention when it will go on pre-order this weekend.
I think so. Halfway through July, was that the rumor?
Halfway through July is the current thoughts.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be that's good. 11th of July is what we're hearing in the chat from our well-known character for knowing those things. Not going first can be a huge benefit. Allows you to react to what the opponent does with their reserves. That's also important. That's also a good point as well. Like if I go first, I have to be the first to put my reserves down if I want. Yeah, which means I can react with my reserves in the way that I want, which is also a positive. Okay, all right, sweet. All right, well, it's been a pleasure talking to you both. You got any plans this week, 40k wise?
So I've just finishing the green stuffing on my Meganob unit, so I'm hoping to start painting on them. That's what I'm gonna aiming for this week.
Okay. So you're gonna put some pictures of your girthy knobs on the internet?
I will.
Oh
yes. Yeah, and I did a conversion on my Meganobs. I don't know if you know the Orc Brute models very well, but they have like caging around their head.
Yes.
That covers their head a little bit. So I've chopped all the caging off so you can fully see the head of the knob.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I wanted the head to be more visible.
So you've got a bunch of circumcised knobs.
I have, a bunch of circumcised knobs.
Very good. my favourite type of knobs. Very good.
Tom, you doing any 40k this week? What's your plans?
I just wanted to give a shout out to my man Grubby.
Oh yeah.
And that's about it. I'm going to finish protecting my stomper.
All right, perfect. I want to say a big shout out to my man Trelly, who sent me some Death Guard models that he had. Listen, I'm not shy. I won't pretend. If anyone's got any random Death Guard models in their house they want to send me, feel free. Reach out. Yeah, like you've got a bunch of Poxwalkers from like the starter box. You're like, oh, just you know what, fuck it, just throw them at Rob. I'd love it. I'd be all about that. So hit me up. Obviously, I can trade nothing for them. So
just get some free from Games Workshop, Rob, for saying nice things about it.
For this show.
Yeah. I mean, he's had lots of nice things this show, so I think he's owed some Death Guard.
I mean, whatever. I'm allowed to be as excited as everyone. I promise you, when the actual rule's out, I will be the salty fuck, who has to bring you all back down to earth with the shit show that it might be. But currently, it's feeling like it might be good. Anyway, well, thank you everyone for listening live. I can't thank Nick and Tom enough for doing this with me. They are brilliant individuals. And I can't even... and I want to say thank you to everyone on the podcast. And I want to say big love to you. And I want to say thank you to everyone on Patreon. And everyone who subscribed. We've got a new subscriber today, Wrath of Sigmar. So that was fun. So thanks for doing that. And everyone who tuned in. That's it. I've got nothing to say unless you guys...
thanks everybody.
Do you want to do a shout out, Nick? Because Tom's already done Grubby, so you can't do it.
No, I'm gonna give a shout out to Gozzy, I think, this week.
Oh, fucking hell, that's his name.
Damn it!
Shit. Shout out to Gozzy.
All right, guys.
Okay, next week.
Sorry again. Yes. Message me. Okay, sweet. Thanks. All right, loads of love. Talk to you.